Ulmus is old, even by Treant standards, and he has resided within the forest for all his life. When the forest was first defiled by the Hypogean invasion, his leaves began to wilt, his tough old bark to rot, his calm mind to blur, under the affliction that set into him. His roots grew independently of his control, and he had no power to stop them. Nearly all of the creatures that had lived among his branches and roots, providing him with companionship and enjoying his protection, fled. He had become an unwitting danger to them. Struggling with the blight of body and mind, he knew only frustration and sorrow. His roots sank deep into the earth, anchoring him in place. When he tried to move, his branches would sporadically convulse as if electrified. What had he become? Memories of his long life flowed through his consciousness. The countless seasons, the various creatures he had known and lived aside, the esteem gained through years of service and succor. It was all fading. He had given up. He had stopped resisting. In the deepest throes of defeat, a warm brightness cut through the darkness that surrounded him.
"Hold on, old friend!"
Arden. The wizened little sage pointed out The wizened little sage pointed his stand at Ulmus's rotting trunk, illuminating it with a serene yet revitalizing light. The treant's overgrown roots reacted as if in pain. They began to writhe and whip about violently, tearing furrows in the polluted earth. Flashing toward the intruder, they wrapped Arden in a sinister embrace. Blood darkened his white beard. Here, Ulmus found the strength he had needed. He had lost everything close to him and had given up, but he wouldn't stand by and simply watch someone he respected this much be crushed in his own tangle of roots. Arden, his close friend of centuries, gasped what very well may have been his final words.
"Forget about me. Free yourself of this sickness. Persist."
Wait.
"Forget about me. Free yourself of this sickness. Persist."
Arden's staff glowed with increasing intensity until nothing could be seen. The light even seemed to block out the sounds of the whipping roots and shaking branches. When the light finally dimmed, and only the sunbeams filtering through the canopy illuminated the scene, Ulmus was a living symbol of rejuvenation. The overgrown roots had been shed, and were already nothing more than dry husks. Withered, dead leaves littered the ground in a thick blanket, and were replaced on the treant's branches with small, bright green leaves of spring. The deep fissures in his bark had closed up, and his trunk and limbs radiated strength. There was only one problem. Arden had disappeared. After a brief moment of panic, one of the piles of dead leaves began to rustle before parting to reveal a bewildered old face, blinking the light away. Setting his sights on Ulmus, he lit up with a smile, rising as he brushed down his beard.
"It's good to have you back."
Stay strong until spring returns. It certainly does, Triv. That's a good point. Without Arden, he may have. That's a very good point. now, let us look. Let me look briefly at Arden. I don't know if his mentions Ulmus or not. I don't. He mentioned a few people. I don't remember if it does. It's important. Why don't we'll read Arden really quick too. This is Arden, by the way. This little guy here is the famous Oaken Sage, my second favorite character of AFK Journey. Yeah, he was one of the first heroes I ever 3-starred. Way back before he was useful for much. I love Root. I love Druids. I've always loved him. You used to be able to use him in AFK Arena for like almost the first year. He was a useful hero for me. Even if your team was far beyond, because he's food. He's a food hero in AFK Arena, right? But like Ira is, and Ogi, you use them here at the Temple of Ascension. We use them to build up other heroes. So if I wanted to build up a Tasi, which I apparently have a bunch of copies of, you would do this, and then you could use a couple of Ardens like that. I'll keep one just in case. To build her up. And then you might eventually use him like this to be legendary. Legendary is yellow in AFK Arena. And then you build him with himself again like that to make him legendary plus, which is the highest that Arden can be, and any of the food heroes. And then you take a legendary plus food hero and you combine them with a legendary plus of, for example, Tasi. Like if we did this. Yep. Make her legendary. Take her, combine her with that. Make her legendary plus. Like that. The game's going to yell at me. I've had these forever. It's fine. And then you would take her, see, and you'd combine her with Arden like that to make her mythic. But I don't think it'll let me. Yeah, I cannot ascend. Yeah, you can't build him up higher. Unfortunately, or fortunately, maybe, I don't know. So anyway, that's his use in this game. But he was so powerful with his roots that you could still use him with a team. So legendary plus heroes can only go up to 160. That's their absolute maximum level. And then you could still use him even if your team was like way higher. Like if your team was, I don't remember, I used him up till my teams were I think close to 300 or something. I'm not sure exactly. This was 4 years ago, but there he is. All right. See, so all my guys are 797 right now in AFK Arena. But Arden, even though I threw him on the crystal, you see here, he maxed out at 160. But I would use him anyway. He's fantastic. So I love that they brought him over. He's an important hero in the story. They brought over like all the best core heroes. They really did. And they're bringing over more now, like Tasi. Tasi was another one of my favorites, and we'll find out why right now. But as I said before, let us begin with Mr. Arden here. Get him some gear. Resonate that gear. Let's get him a... Oh, they can't wear the fancy artifacts? That's fair. Food heroes can't wear the fancy stuff? All right, that's fine. Yeah, that checks out. Go ahead and take the eye, buddy. Okay. Arden has lived a very long life and accumulated a peerless pool of wisdom. The old sage is held in the highest regard among the wilders, with many looking on him with something akin to reverence. As an oak sage, Arden is also in the highest order of the forest's conjurers. They are nature's will incarnate, the voice of the trees, the hand of the living world. Needless to say, his words carry considerable weight. Though all wilders call the forest their home, and feel at ease among the towering trunks and swooping boughs, Arden feels the life of the place deep in his bones. He knows that the forest has a soul. He hears its joy in the sun's nourishing warmth, its sorrow at the axe's falls, its hunger and pain and overwhelming desire to propagate. It was in this way that Arden sensed the approach of the Hypogeans. From the moment the gate was broken, a looming unease began to grow like a parasitic weed. There was a sudden darkening of the forest's gestalt consciousness. Animals returned to their burrows or huddled in their nests. Flowers ready to bloom remained closed, afraid to open their petals to the world outside. Seeds in the ground refused to take root, afraid of what they would meet above ground. Arden couldn't quite say what the threat was at the very beginning, but he knew that dark times were coming, and that his people would need to be ready. The first step was to create the Dusk Watch. Someone would need to be posted along the woodland's perimeter if they were to ascertain exactly what the source of this unease was. He began speaking to the brambles and brush around the forest edge and the areas surrounding the villages of the wilders, gently coaxing the brambles and the brush to grow in tightly knit walls of thorn and vine. Of course he did. That's my boy. The aged conjurer knew, however, that in the coming times, the vast stores of knowledge he held would need to be shown to all. Not without a little trepidation, he opted to break with long-held traditions and share his wisdom in earnest. He began to teach the most talented of the younger generation many of the secrets he had uncovered over his years, encouraging them to bring this knowledge to their friends and to their families. If they were going to make it through this, they would need everyone operating to their fullest potential. Unity would be paramount. Evil was spreading in all directions, and like a corrupted river, one branch was coming for them. The Wilders would need guidance and an experienced hand in the time to come. Arden felt his new responsibility come to rest heavily on his shoulders. He didn't ask for this duty, but he didn't trust anyone else to do it. He would lead the fight. He would lead the resistance.
Listen to the wind. Words ride on its every breath.
Speak through me. The trees speak through me. There is power in these roots.
I like his voice. I haven't actually listened to his one in the game much. I just kind of do my own thing with it, but I like it.
The land guards its secrets.
It's pretty similar, actually. That's great. I love that. So I think that's important to understand the basis here of what's going on with these other characters. Like, that's the mood in the forest. And did you catch that Arden created the Dusk Patrollers? Did you catch that Arden created the Dusk Patrollers? Because the Dusk Patrollers, if you don't remember, is the organization
the path to victory
run by Leica It's the organization of guards that she is
Starlight
captain
will
of
hunt
course.
down the villains of this world.
I made a big huff and deal to them that the Dusk Patrollers weren't in the game much in Journey before they did the rewrites,
Starlight will hunt
and
down the villains of this world.
I was really glad. A couple of us did. Meisel did with me, in fact. That's when she was still playing AFK, and they made her.
Those who fight for justice.
And the Dusk Patrollers became much more visible and prevalent afterwards, and I was really. It felt like maybe they had always been planning to, maybe not. I don't know. But it certainly felt like they listened,
Starlight
and either
will
way,
hunt down the villains of this world.
they got it right. So, this is my Awoken Leica, by the way. I built her fairly recently. We got to do a hero swap.
Dear stars, answer my call. Aid me in...
We got to do a hero swap. They do this once a year now. It's a wonderful idea. So you can get rid of old heroes that are useless now that you've invested a lot into. They did it the first time 2 years ago, right around when I started streaming. And I swapped Leica, I swapped my Brutus, Awoken Brutus, for Awoken Leica. Awoken Leica is extremely relevant now, and unfortunately, Awoken Brutus has kind of been passed by, as units do. You know, they get passed by. So, it makes me sad though. I loved him. He was like one of my favorite units I had. But luckily, I'm able to accomplish a lot more now with her than I was. So. This is Awoken Brutus. We've done his story and stuff a lot before in the past. But we got to stay with the Wilders, of course. So now that we did Ulmus and we got sort of a bit of the story there from Arden, let me go. We're gonna go wait. So Arden is like current age, right? And Ulmus obviously is too, because he's really old. But we're gonna go back to Ulmus more towards the beginning. I don't know if it's the beginning of Ulmus, but we're going to go back to the beginning of Tasi and in history and see the creation and things that came way before the time of now, which includes Arden. He's known Arden for centuries, so I'm actually not sure how old Arden is either. I don't know. Meisel would know. I should ask her. But she would know if we know. I'm not sure if we know. But anyway, we're gonna go back. So yeah, Arden is actually also very old, but I don't think he's Ulmus old. But he may be. I'm not sure.
I am prepared.
You're thinking of trying out AFK Arena, Triv? It's really good. It's really complicated these days.
Is your last day.
I've heard that it can be a little overwhelming for new players now, which doesn't shock me. But it would be great if you start it. I'm down to help you any way that I can. The story part, the one thing that you should be prepared for if any of you guys decide to play AFK Arena, is that the stories are not part of the game. Like, they're in there to read, but it's not part of the gameplay. That's what's different about Journey. That's why I like Journey so much, is because they've made the story part of the gameplay. In AFK Arena, the story is very to the side. It's like there is story for each character, but what the battles and things, there are stories that go on in the game, but like the main campaign doesn't have story to it, right? But there are stories. In fact, there's one that I was thinking, I guess maybe we should do it maybe later today. There's a story for the Awoken Entendre, for example, that tells the story of her awakening. And that is it's a playthrough. We're going to play it. Let's see. Okay, so we can do it next weekend. So I'm probably going to do that next weekend. But she has a whole story to play through here that tells how she's awoken, because each of the awoken heroes literally wakes up. I'll read the little brief. Entendre had been ready to sacrifice herself in a final battle, but at the last moment, Hilduin of the Bloodridge tribe, that's one of these new dragons. We're in the era of dragons. Came out like around the time the Journey came out, the dragon expansion. Hilduin of the Bloodridge tribe bestowed her with the power of the Draconis gems, granting her the power to wipe out Hypogeans. But her fight wasn't over yet. Worried about Citrana and the refugees, she headed straight for the Temple of the Seers, returning to the place where her exile began. After all these years, as she steps into the sacred temple once again, will she reclaim her role as a temple guard or leave it behind forever? Awakening is a gimmick that allows them to re-release heroes. So, for example, I own Leica, Keeper of the Glades, and have had her since the very beginning.
Do not give yourself to evil.
She's very similar to her character in Journey, as in this form.
I fight for the forest.
Very similar. You put her in, she adds haste to the team right off the start of the battle. That's like her primary use. Then 3.5 years later, or whatever, they release the Awoken version. You see them both here. Here's one, and here's two.
I shall illuminate the path to victory.
And here
Remarkable. We did it.
is her Awoken form. They're super powerful heroes that you can only pull for with like super powerful cards. They're like the most expensive, difficult to acquire kind of heroes. They're like superheroes. They're, I don't know, there's probably a term for them in gachas. I don't know gachas, I only know Esperia. But they're like uber carries, you know. Is there a term for that in gacha speak? But the awakening that happens is only plot-wise. It doesn't actually happen to the character. It's a totally different tune. And you can't use them both in the same lineup, but that's the only restriction with it. I mean, kind of makes sense. Yeah, so you can't use them in the same formation ever, but other than that, they're just two completely different heroes. They have no relation to each other whatsoever, except that they typically share a faction. I'm trying to think if one of them... I've always wanted them to have an Awoken hero to change faction. I think would be really cool. Yes, so what does it mean in lore? Absolutely. So in lore, it does have a meaning. In lore, it means that something happened. It's different for all of them. That's the really cool thing. It's one of the things that I really admire about what they've been doing. One sec. So in the lore, like I said, it means something different for everybody, and they write it, most of them, really, really well. The Lucius that happened recently is unfortunately an example of... It was a total misfire. It's not good plot. Nobody was pleased with it. He looks like Lucius got a drinking problem and got fired from his job. He's got like a scruffy goatee now, and the plot doesn't make any sense with the other things going on. So we kind of don't talk about him, but most of them, I think plot-wise, have been very good. And so, for example, Sophia is one of my favorites. She's a mauler, of course. And Sophia is a Sphinx. They didn't use Sphinxes in this expansion in Journey. I wish that they had. But Sophia is...
I am one with the desert.
No, Christina, that's a great idea. Like if they died and became Graveborn, that's what I wanted. I was saying I wanted Awoken Lucius as a Graveborn. It would have been a great plot line. The man who's like sworn to protect the Lightbearers from Graveborns. It would be so cool. It would have been, everybody would love it, man. It's such a good idea. And they didn't listen to me, and they awokened him as like a 37-year-old bum who's like, you know, still working the same dead-end job and like hates his life and chain smoking. Like he it's yeah. Anyway, so Lucius is kind of an exception, but most of them have really great stories. For example, Sophia here. So she's daughter of the desert Sophia. She was like a mostly not too used these days mauler who got interested in the Void Realm and a relic in particular. She's I think she was part royalty, or I forget exactly her connection, but she's royal enough. The Sphinxes in general are kind of high up nobility, I think. So they have a very strict hierarchy, and she was towards the top of it. And she starts playing with this relic that attaches her to the Void Realm, that lets her feel the power of the Void Realm, and gets hooked on it, and decides to steal this relic to grab all this power from herself. And that was her awakening. And so she awakens.
Nothing is more divine than the taste of power.
Into Sophia.
Let this all-consuming power plunge the world into darkness.
Maestro of power. It's very, very, she's a very, very cool
To wear
character.
this crown is to bear its weight. Insignificant.
You know, Christina, we've never seen a Graveborn that was a Wilder or a Mauler, and I gotta wonder why. Plot-wise, we should maybe be able to see that.
Let this all-consuming power
Rubes, I don't know. Let me look, Rubel. Depends what time you sent it, Rube. If it was last night, my power was out.
Insignificant
Let
worms.
me see, bud.
Insignificant
Oh, yeah.
worms.
Yeah, man. Grats. Yeah, I totally appreciate your success on the second account, man. I think that's a smart thing to do. It's literally what I do. You know, I have two accounts, and it helps with the stress of being a talented player, but just being, no matter what you do as a free play, you're kind of stuck behind the pack on a top server like server 1 where we play, or any of the guys. You know, I know guys that are free to plays on server 4, server 8, all these. So I totally think it's a great idea, man. I'm glad you're having success over there. It's good. Anyway, Sophia, she woke up in such a fashion. I don't know about the undead being a bear, but it's interesting. It's an interesting thought. I haven't really explored it. That's another one that Maisel would have a good answer to. I'd love to ask her what she thinks of it. I'll have to hit her up later today. I got some questions. We got some questions for her. I figured it would happen eventually, and it finally. I've got some questions that I totally need her on. So anyhow, Yeah, it's a really cool idea, Christina. That's really, really cool. Oh, what up, Bama? Bama on Twitch. Bro, I needed you yesterday. Some guy was in here saying all kinds of crazy shit on Twitch. I had to ban him. I thought of you. He was like, "Hi, I love your stream so much. It is so entertaining. I have many suggestions which I will send to you now, and you can pay me for them," or something dumb like that. All right. Back to the plot lines at hand. We've got, so yeah, as I said, we're gonna go back into the origins of at least Tasi's corporal form. Corporal meaning body, coming from the Latin for corpse, or corp, which means like corpse, body. So Tasi's corporal form, which happened in I thought I knew where it was. Apparently I don't. Huh. Huh. Hold on. Let me see my timeline here. I'm literally making a freaking video about it. I've got a freaking timeline. I know I do. I thought I knew where that was. That's kind of fun. Okay. So I know that it's in... She comes in relation to Ezizh making an appearance in Nightmares. He starts popping in and she goes, whoa boy, I gotta do something. Is this what I needed? No. This is what I needed. Okay, here we go. Okay, okay, yeah, it is pretty recent. Yes, the Aurora Age, I believe. What the? I guess we'll just go to her story because okay. It's so funny to try and get it to show it without messing with the camera. I mean, I can mess with the camera, but wait, no, don't cut me out. You see it anyway. Ulmus and Tasi. But let's read her story first, and then we'll do their union story. What's up, girly?
May the forest guide us. There will be peace again. You'll never catch me. Leave here at once.
Cecilia looks like she could be connected to the what? Oh, no. The reason Cecilia looks like that, I thought we covered that. You know, I never read Cecilia's story, did I? Have I done? I don't think I've done her story again, have I? Since, because it's up on, sorry, let me turn Tasi down. It's up on Twitch, but I think I was going to redo it on YouTube and I haven't. Cecilia seems Wilder-like because she died in a forest and was swallowed by enchanted vines. She was lured into a forest by one of her suitor's wives, who was somehow in cahoots with a group of dark mages, like necromancers. And I don't want to say for sure necromancers, but they were at least wizards casting evil potions. And so she hops in a carriage that she thinks is sent by her lover, and it turns out that the carriage was sent by his wife. And it takes her into the forest, and then it stops, and she's like, wait, why are we stopping? And she gets out of the carriage, and the guy's wife is standing there in this very heavily wooded area, and suddenly she sees coming out from around in the darkness all these mages in robes, and they all step out of the darkness with their heads covered, and all at once they pour green vials onto the ground of like bright green liquid, and in like some big circle or something, and the roots all reach out and grab her and pull her down and consume her basically. And I don't want to, I mean, I guess I did kind of ruin it in a sense, but I don't want to ruin the whole thing, so I'll stop there. But that's, then it doesn't really cover her relationship with Quaidam. We don't know her relationship with Quaidam, although I assume, especially for who she is, she's got to be a Quaidam chick, like 100%. So that we didn't, it doesn't discuss what her agreement is, but like assuming it's per the norm, like, okay, you can come back, but what they don't know is that they're only going to contain their, like, all their negative feelings, her jealousy, her rage, her vanity, you know? Yeah, totally Corpse Bridey. Absolutely. A little bit. But that's her deal. And her trusty butler, Mr. Carlyle, would do anything for her. He followed her through, to the ends of the earth. He was in love with her. He went running after her carriage because she had forgotten her favorite hat, maybe, or favorite scarf or something. And he goes running after her, and he gets to the forest a little too late, and he sees her, and he still tries to get into the thorns to get to her, and they consumed him as well, which is why he is now her little bitch boy, even in the afterlife, and is like a big old spirit thing. He was her butler in life. One sec, I gotta deal with this dog. Is my camera stuck? It is, huh? That's funny. One sec. I was wondering what happened there. Let's fix that. It's a goofy image. Okay, hold on. Split, yeah.
There will be peace again.
Oh, I see. It's not even the camera. There was no issue. It's my oh, great. It's my OBS.
You'll never catch me. There will be peace again.
Sometimes my preview gets all wonky, and I don't know how to refresh it, which sucks, because I've been doing a lot of maneuvering of the thing right now,
Do not make me angry.
I'm trying to figure out how to fix it without restarting.
May the forest guide us.
Sorry, guys. One sec.
Leave here at once. May the forest guide us. Do not make me angry.
Everybody says you have to just restart OBS. That sucks.